Helix Sleep is the perfect place to get your perfect mattress. We've talked about Helix a lot on this show, and rightfully so, because it's amazing, and I'm passionate about every one of you sleeping on a Helix mattress because they're that good. And don't worry if you think, well, Nick, if maybe it's great for you, is it going to be great for us? Of course it is, because Helix has a lineup of over 20 unique mattresses designed for every possible sleeper. You're big and tall people, no problem. The kids, no problem. Side sleepers, hot sleepers, cold sleepers, doesn't matter. Helix has something for you all. It's truly a most incredible mattress. It's so incredibly comfortable. And if you don't want to take our word for it, don't worry. They give you a 100-night sleep trial on it. You can do whatever you want for 100 nights. And if it's not the most perfect mattress you've ever slept on, no problem. Just send it back. In addition to the 100-night trial, you get a 10 to 15-year warranty depending on the mattress. So you know that they are backing the quality of their products. But let's just be honest, it's super comfortable, it's super great. Stop wasting your time going to those mattress stores and being sold a bunch of things that you don't need on a mattress that's going to take too long to make and you're going to spend too much on. Just go to helixsleep.com/VIALL. Answer some basic questions about your preferences and how you sleep, and in just a matter of days, you'll be sleeping on the most comfortable mattress you've ever slept on in your entire life. And if you don't want to take my word for it, that's fine. GQ and Wire Magazine also named Helix mattress the #1 mattress you could possibly sleep on because it's that great. So, get yourself a Helix mattress today. Helix is offering up to 20% off all mattress orders. Go to helixsleep.com/VIALL. That is helixsleep.com/VIALL. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
You're crazy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Viall Files, Ask Nick edition. What's going on?
Not much, but there's an interesting study that I found.
Okay.
And basically, it looked at how facial filters on dating apps affect like your likability or your success on the app. I thought it'd be interesting to run through like the conclusions that came out of it and see what you think.
Tell me more.
So basically, the researchers recruited 218 participants from a university in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
The study was designed to stimulate a mobile dating app environment where participants make rapid judgments about unfamiliar faces. The study used 72 different faces, including 36 male and 36 female, each presented in 3 versions. So we have unfiltered, subtly filtered, and
Exaggeratedly filtered.
yeah, filtered.
Can I see these photos?
They didn't release it because this is like a closed
Didn't
study.
you give us examples of what they meant by that?
No, but they told us what each one meant. So like for a subtle filter, it made small, difficult to detect changes to the face, such as smoothing the skin or enhancing features slightly. Obviously, the unfiltered has no filters. And then the exaggerated filters made the face look more artificial, such as enlarging the eyes or altering facial symmetry in a noticeable way. And then basically, these participants ranked faces based on both likability and trustworthiness. So, at the end of it, researchers found that the subtly filtered photos were ranked more likable than the default photos. Meanwhile, the heavily filtered photos were ranked less likable than the default.
I can tell you why.
I'll tell you what they think after, but tell me why.
Why the subtly, to do it so I understand, the subtly filtered performed the best, essentially?
Yes.
Okay. Because subtly filtered, I'm thinking this person gives a shit about how they look. They take care of themselves. They're invested in their appearance, but not to the degree of misrepresenting themselves. Like they're confident in how they look, but like all of us, you know, I think I'm a decent looking guy, but I put effort and energy into my appearance to make sure that's always the case. Like I give a shit. As opposed to heavily filtered, you're thinking, whoa, who is this person? Like, is this real? Like, I mean, I want to know what you look like, not like who you wish you looked like. As opposed to no filters at all. You're just like, come on, you didn't try? No, that's my take.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so basically they said, as expected,
Did I nail it?
Yes, you did.
as expected, attractive faces were rated as more trustworthy and were liked more than unattractive faces, and then neutral faces fell in between. The findings support the beautiful is good stereotype, where attractive people are often perceived more positively across various traits, including trustworthiness. And then
That is crazy, though.
And then another significant finding was that the subtle photo filters generally increased how much participants liked a face, while exaggerated filters reduced its likability. And then basically, on average, there was a clear correlation between likability, trustworthiness, and attractiveness. So like they were saying that your success on a dating app is based on whether we trust the image we're seeing, less about than like the attractiveness of it. So if like we see someone pretty and that looks like a natural pretty, we trust that they're actually looking that way. Versus like someone that you can tell like there's a little bit extra like face tune in there, we automatically are like they're pretty, but if
What are they hiding?
like if that doesn't look real, they might be like totally different in person.
The face app filter.
Yeah.
The one where it's like everybody looks exactly the same because they all put on this like supermodel filter, but it's like Yeah, like why do your eyes look kind of weird though? Like there's just something about it where it's like, yeah, no, I don't trust that. And also, I'm like filtering your photos. I feel like that's the most like embarrassing thing that could happen is like you show up somewhere and you don't look like that photo.
Yeah.
Back in my dating days, I was very self-conscious about looking like my photos. Because I just felt like you meet a lot of people and you're just like, the fuck?
Yep.
Like, you know, like
Nothing like that.
so then I thought to myself, well, maybe we're all just delusional. Maybe we all just pick the photos that we want to look like. I was like, well, maybe I'm doing this too, without me even realizing. So a couple of times I've been like, do I look like this person? They're like, yeah. I'm like, great. They would look at me like, what? It's a picture of you. I'm like, I'm just making sure.
Who is that?
Because some people, you're just like, the fuck?
Yeah.
I'll never forget a buddy of mine. He's no longer dating this person. He used to be my roommate. He was dating this girl. Didn't care for her much.
Okay.
And then they moved in with each other. And then I went over to his house once. And it was already weird that she had pictures of herself all over. That was kind of weird.
Self-love.
But whatever. Yeah, we've all done that. Me and my buddies were there. We were there for a Madden tournament, so we were there to play video games. Loser energy.
I was thinking it. I wasn't going to say it.
So, you can judge us all you want. Because I'm about to judge this person. But there were pictures of her all over the room. And me and my buddy were just like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because, like, she looked great in every photo in the house. And I'm like, wait, that's her. But it was like hand-selected, heavily curated photos. And then we started looking. They were like kind of all the same pose. She like knew her angle. She knew this one thing, but it looked nothing fucking like her, like at all. And it was just like mind blowing. And it wasn't heavily filtered. It was just highly curated. It was just like a very specific angle where the light was shining. And it was just all over the apartment, this one pose that she had. And it was just like, and it was a picture of a girl that looked nothing like her. I just will never forget that. And it was like this, it felt like we were in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I think we all do that though. Like we all look smacks.
I mean, we all have our
like poses and whatnot.
For sure.
I'm still figuring out mine.
There's degrees,
Yeah.
But that's why, that's why I would ask. Because I'm as vain as anyone else. I have a light side of the moon and a dark side of the moon based off of what I think, right? And so, I'm trying to capture that. And that's part of the reason why I would ask people if I looked like my picture that I put on the dating app, because I just was like, well, maybe I'm just like her and I don't see it. Interesting study. What's the takeaway, Justin?
The takeaway is just to like not filter your photos, right?
No, I think the takeaway is to do what I did.
Right.
No, I mean, I think there's a little bit of I think the takeaway is you got to make sure you fight against your own insecurities and your own vanity to be confident in who you are and put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to post flattering pictures of yourself? Of course. Dress up, get advice from your friends. Do you look good? But make sure it looks like you because nothing will perform worse than misrepresenting yourself.
Exactly.
You can never make up for that. You just can't.
Maybe mix it around. Do like a couple not heavily filtered, but like overly flattering photos and then like normal photos.
It's like people lying on their age by a year or two on the dating app.
Yeah, that is weird.
I'd always be like, oh, well, now
can't trust you.
We can never be together. Because it was so easy. It was so easy. To me, it's just like it shouldn't be that easy to lie to strangers.
Well, that's kind of what I don't like about dating apps. I've never been on one, but I'm like, I would just feel like it's like emphasizing your best qualities of who you think you are to portray to somebody. But I'm like, that may not be reality. Like if I'm like, what are my favorite things, my interests, where I'm like, oh, I do like to read, but I'm like, I could be like, oh, I like sports just because I want to get a guy that likes sports, but I don't. You know what I mean? And it's as easy to like lure somebody in with like false pretenses of who you are, where I'm like, just be yourself.
Or when people say like they like to laugh. Sure, I guess, duh.
Yeah.
When someone says they like to laugh, you're thinking of someone who's just like walking around, everything is just laughing. I never laugh.
I laugh all the time.
I'm a tough laugh.
Okay.
I wasn't so tough, but like
I'm a tough laugh too.
I'm a tough laugh. I'm sorry, It's like, I guess.
But I wouldn't be like, that's a characteristic of mine. Like I wouldn't be like, I laugh a lot. Okay. Like, what do you care about?
Or like I like to travel. How much though? Once a year, twice a year? Or do you like the idea of traveling? That's what I'm saying. It's so vague.
Yeah. Or just like, as I said, putting forward the best idea of yourself, but maybe not who you are. Well, obviously, I'm like, don't post your trauma either, but I'm just kind of like, post what you look like, how you are, and just present yourself as who you are authentically, and somebody will respond to that. But like, if you're misleading people with overly filtered photos or trying to make yourself sound like the most engaging version of yourself, and then being like, why do none of these things work out? It's because that's not who you are.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Is that a lot?
No.
Welcome to Ask Nick, by the way.
Oh,
Sarah.
thank you.
She was just here in studio when we were recording this intro. Like, stick around.
Here I am.
Anyways, we got some callers lined up for you as well as a hell of a week. We got Joey and Kelsey, your favorite bachelor, also on Dancing with the Stars, his wonderful fiance, him and her join us on Reality Recap tomorrow.
Okay.
Monica from Love is Blind is with us as well. We'll be talking Salt Lake City. We will be talking a little Orange County. It's a jam-packed episode. And later that week, we got Charles from the Golden Bachelorette. On your favorite Golden Bachelor, right? Charles, is it anyone's favorite? Charles is with us on Thursday. We got a couple exciting Going Deepers lined up for you the rest of this month as well, so be sure to check that out. Before we get to our callers, don't forget to send in your questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com. That's Ask Nick, not Ask Nick. Ask Nick at theviallfiles.com. In case anyone knows. Let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Going good. My name is Alex. I'm 24 and I am living at home with my parents while dating someone kind of famous.
Okay. I'm curious what you think kind of famous is. Obviously, we do not want to mention this person's name or give that much context. But what are we talking? What, like A, like D, C, B? What are we? Are we? Is this
Probably
athlete?
not an athlete.
Not an athlete. Okay.
Not an athlete, actor, musician.
Actor, musician. Okay.
He is, I'd say like D-list, maybe C, probably more like D-list.
Working actor.
Working actor, working musician,
Okay.
has a decent following on social.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So other than like, obviously this is kind of like a fun little headline and good for you for, dating someone kind of famous, kind of fun. What's your big hang up? Like what actually can I help you out with? Are you feeling self-conscious, I'm guessing, about the fact that you're living from home? How old is he? Let's start with that. You're going to have to give us that.
He's a bit older. He's like 37, which
Okay.
is new for me to date someone 15 years older than me. But, that
Okay.
part's fine. And he
So
knows.
we're good there. We have no.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Totally fine with that. And he knows my age and he knows I live at home. We actually have broached that topic, which is different from what I wrote in originally. But
What was your original question? I'm curious.
it was that I was just nervous to say that because it is a little bit embarrassing in the moment to be out it's difficult to be out in the dating world.
Wait, you were embarrassed that you were living at home, not being 24, right?
Yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
24 is great.
Yeah, I was
Living
like-
at home is interesting, trying to date anybody, let alone someone that's like established and stuff.
Have you always lived at home or have you moved back home after moving out?
I've moved back home from college.
Okay.
So I've been out for like just about 2 years now. I did some traveling, went backpacking for a while, and then I got a job back home, but it's just not paying the bills.
Gotcha.
So, which is a problem that I need to solve on my own. I can definitely fix a lot of this by getting a different job, which I'm working on, but nothing's clicked yet. So it's really it's difficult to navigate the dating world with mom and dad kind of breathing down my neck all the time.
Are they actually breathing down your neck? Or are you joking? Like how involved or active in your life are they? Have they kind of resumed parents, kind of like when you were a teenager living at home, or have they been like, oh, well, you're an adult now?
I'd say it's a mixture. I mean, I have a really lovely relationship with my parents. I enjoy telling them everything. I like that I'm really, really close with them. But when it comes to boys, if I'm in a relationship, I tell them everything that's going on, which I think now I'm reverting back to maybe sneaking around and not giving them all the details, because if I'm out with a guy,
What do you
then-
what do you mean by sneaking around? Like what do you
literally sneaking around. If I'm hanging out with this one person, or in the past I've been going on dates, dating people in the dating scene, but I'm keeping it a secret because if I'm out at a boy's house after midnight, it just feels weird to be able to, I can't tell them that.
Well, aren't they gonna know?
Not if I have a cover story.
Don't you think that's a little ridiculous?
Yes, it is ridiculous, but I feel the judgment from them. So I've found that it's easier for me to just kind of not say stuff.
And when you say you feel the judgment from them, what do you mean by that?
The most recent example I can think of was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I work in the music industry, so sometimes I'm like working late nights during the week, which is normal. And this one particular time, the guy I'm talking to right now was at the place that I work. I've already met all of his friends a few times. And so I got off my shift around 11. They were leaving at the same time. And I went out to grab a drink with them after I got off of work. And so I was out until probably 12:30, went home. And this was a Monday, but that's kind of normal for my line of work right now. I just happened to go out afterwards for a second. And my dad, the next morning, was like, "Where'd you go last night? Why'd you go home so late?" And I was like, "I went out to get a drink with my friends after work." And he just goes, "Ugh, okay." And like rolled his eyes and walked away. It's just like I just feel judgment and an intensity behind some of the stuff, even though I'm 24
Okay.
and they were doing the same stuff when they were 24 years old too.
Sure.
But they just weren't living at home.
Well, this is a you problem.
I know.
So well, it's good that you know that. I'm sure there might be an element of a projection of the fact that I'm guessing your first option isn't to live with your parents, right? And there's probably some self-judgment going on there. Normal, obviously. Parents are going to parent, I guess. Like, as you're telling the story about your dad, again, like I'm just a new dad here, and I'm envisioning my sarcastic, nosy ass, when I want to be, right? And if I imagine, my daughter has a job, graduated from college, comes home on a Monday, it's just really easy to make snap judgments and questions like that as a parent. And I get how you might feel judged there, but I'm also guessing, knowing nothing, from the brief description you've talked about your relationship with your parents. If your parents were really concerned about your actions and behavior, I'm guessing they would probably talk to you and sit you down and been like, "Hey, like we have some concerns." I think these reactions in the morning, again, is it judgy? For sure. Who gives a fuck? You are talking to someone who, I've thought about why Ask Nick exists, or why I have a knack for talking about boundaries. It's because like I've always just been really good at enforcing mine, because I've always been good at like not letting other people's opinions of me or disappointment of me honestly just really bother me. I'm not perfect on that, but I've been generally good at that. And again, like this is you just understanding your relationship with your parents, and then kind of understanding your relationship with yourself in terms of where you're at in your life. You overall have a good relationship with mom and dad, and I guess the question is, you got to ask yourself, I think this has way more to do with your job and where you're at in your life. 24, very weird time. At least it was for me. I always say how like your 20s are you generally trying to live up to the expectations you set for yourself when you were a teenager. And that's kind of stupid when you think about it, because you were a teenager and you've changed, and your interests and desires, might be similar, but you've evolved as a person. And yet, you had hopes and dreams for yourself. And when you were 18, you fantasized with yourself or with your friends, or, talked about what you want for yourself. And I am guessing at 24, while I'm sure you're doing very well, you didn't fantasize about living with mom and dad. And there might have been a car in the picture that you're not driving or something where and it's as easy to like judge yourself and think I should be further along than I am at 24, because when you were 18, 24 seems so long from now, and it seems so much older, and you felt like you're going to be so much more accomplished, and now you're living with mom and dad. And so it's just very easy to fuck with yourself about that, right? And I think more than anything, that you should give yourself a little bit of grace in that department. When I turned 25, I lost worst birthday of my life. A few years later, I broke up with my girlfriend who I lived with, didn't want to keep living there, so I moved in with my grandma because she had a condo in the city, and I was like, fuck it, can I just stay at your house? And I certainly felt a certain way about that. I was 28, 29, something like that. I was like, oh my God, I'm going backwards. But honestly, it was one of the best times of my life. I've never gotten closer with a grandparent than in that time. It's just time I cherish. So like, you're not going to regret these moments that you have with your parents and this little extra time. You don't sound like a loser in the sense that like, the fact that you don't like living with your parents means you're not a loser, like,
Yes.
right? Some people are like, oh, this is kind of nice. I don't mind this. I mean, I understand it for all people listening that various cultures have different, and not everyone who lives with the parents is a loser, but a lot of people are. But is any of this helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Trying to offer some perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you said because I don't find it shameful or anything that I live with my parents and I know a lot of that it's my problem. Like I've been at my job for a year now, and so I'm starting to kind of look elsewhere to see if I can find something that I would be able to afford to move in with roommates or by myself because the city I'm in is expensive and I just can't do it right now. It's just no, it is 100%. It's a me problem. And I knew that you were going to say that when I was calling in, but I just get frustrated with the impending questions and the tracking of my location. And I just feel even if I'm literally just with my girlfriends or with my guy friends having a good time or sitting at their house, I'm getting messages of like, what are you doing? When are you coming home? Like, who are you with? And it's like, I told you before I left. Like I'm with my two best girlfriends.
So there you go. I mean, this is again, part of it is also now like advancing your relationship with your parents, right? And I think as adults, we have to coach our parents up for the relationship that we want to have as adults with our parents. Like it's a little unfair, I think, as young adults or as kids to expect our parents to go from, and I say this as a new dad, like, one thing you do when you have a kid is you immediately feel guilty about like your relationship with your parents, I think a little bit, because the way you love your kid, you realize I probably have never fully appreciated how much my parents loved me as a kid. And I think you just have that feeling when you're a parent, and so I just think it's a little unfair for us kids to have our parents like raise us a certain way, be in charge, give us life. And, for much of our early life, like we are useless and completely helpless, and it requires our parents to take care of us. And then at 18, when we're adults, we have the right to have a new relationship with our parents, right? And we have the right to, make our own choices and decisions. And it's not that easy for parents to just snap into this new role, right, as parents, right? So I think it's on us as kids to train our parents to have the relationship that we want, which is, again, comes down to communicating expectations, setting and enforcing boundaries with our parents, right? So your parents have certain rights because they're allowing you to live there. And I think it's very common for parents who kids have live at home being like, our home, our rules, so to speak, within certain limits. I think it's more than like acceptable for your parents to like ask you to let them know where you're going to be and when you might be home. Sure. When mom and dad start asking a couple times or being, who you're with, less of their business,
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can set these rules with them and you can have a negotiation with your parents. I don't think your parents going to kick you out because you're like, Mom, Dad, come on. Like, I've asked you, like, to be honest, like, I get it, Mom, I understand, but like, it does get a little annoying. Or you just choose to not respond to them. You can choose to ignore them. You have the right to do that. And when your parents say, why don't you, text us back the next day? It's like, I was busy with my friends, Mom, and I was in a safe location. You let your parents follow your location. So like, that's just, again, something you can choose to stop doing if you want, but like, you can give them that just from a safety standpoint. But honestly, you living at home has not much to do with that, because as soon as you move out, I don't share my location with my parents. Natalie shares it with her mom though. So, everyone's different. That's a choice.
The location thing is like when I was in college and then when I traveled, it was all the same stuff, but I wasn't in their house. So obviously living in their house is a different situation. I do feel like we've all reverted back to when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old in high school.
Yeah, but
with more freedom.
But that's my biggest takeaway for you is you need to stop the whole like lying and storytelling and sneaking in. Like that's silly. And again,
I'm not sneaking in.
Whatever. But like you stop playing the role of being a teenager, because that makes it easier for your parents to see you as that teenager and not as the adult who has different rights than they did when they were 16. And if you want your parent to treat you like an adult, act like an adult, you know? And an adult doesn't sneak around their parents. An adult, you know, is less, you know, no one wants to disappoint your parents, but your parents also have to be a certain level of reasonable. You know, your parents can feel disappointed or you can feel, they can judge you all you want, but as long as you're not doing anything inappropriate, there's no reason for you to feel judged.
Yeah.
If I did a certain thing where my parents like rolled their eyes, as long as I was happy with my decision, my takeaway would be is they're just misinformed. But it's really, I don't care enough to inform them. So it's like, I was just, as long as I'm comfortable with my decisions, it's like, you know, I have the benefit of having a good relationship with my parents. I know that's not the case with everyone, but it sounds like you do as well. And so I just have the benefit of knowing my parents love me. And I know my parents will always accept me. And so like whether my parents agree with every decision, just made me give a lot less fucks because I know they love me. You know what I'm saying? I knew how they felt about me, and I know their feelings will never change. And that was a certain level of freedom that I'm lucky enough to have had with my parents. But it sounds like you have a similar relationship. So I think it's foolish for you to play the role of the teenager when you should be playing the role of the adult.
No, I agree. I don't think I'm playing the role of as the teenager per se.
But you get what I'm saying. The sneaking around
I totally
to a certain degree.
I'm not really actually sneaking around. It's really just like, if I'm dating somebody, they expect to meet them, even if I've been on 2 dates with the person. So I revert to like just not saying I'm dating, so I don't have to do that.
But that's sneaking around. Again, but you got to hear me out here. That's your parents' rule. Like when you were a teenager and dating, and you got to a certain age where your parents, you know, allowed you to a date or go to a dance or something. You know what I'm saying? And your parents had certain rules. You probably had some kind of curfew, blah, 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 right? Your parents, again, there's a little bit of a gray area because you live at home, but for the most part, your parents don't get to set rules with you. Your parents can set boundaries with you now, just like you can set boundaries with them, right? Like when you're a kid, your parents have rules, and you don't like, you know, to a certain degree, you don't have much of a choice. You have to listen to your parents. As adults, it's just boundaries. It's like, hey, this is what I want and expect from you. Your parents can set boundaries with you because you live at home. You live at home. And like you can choose to respect them or not. And that can be a conversation with your parents. But you do not have to introduce your parents to any guy after 2 dates. That's your choice. If you want to, go nuts. If you don't have to. You're an adult. And you could say, hey, mom, dad, I hear you. But like, honestly, dating for me, just so you know, I move a lot slower, you know, and I don't know if that's true or not, but like, you could just say like, I want to date people just to get to know people's personalities. And like, I'm not going to introduce you to every guy I've gone on 2 dates with. It's just not. But when I'm actually excited or interested in someone, just trust my judgment that I'm going to introduce you to someone that when I'm ready, you know, and that's the conversation you should be having with mom and dad. And they should respect that. But you know what I'm saying? It's about changing your rules. And that's what I'm saying. You have the right to say, well, mom and dad don't get to have the same expectations they had of you when you were 17. But you are allowing them to have those expectations. So it's on you. Because mom and dad are never going to they're never going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard. You know, they're, you know, I'm guessing they see you as, you know, their little girl. So it's harder for them. You got to show them that you're the woman that you are, you know, the adult person.
Yeah, I've definitely tried to set some boundaries, but my mom is usually on my side about stuff like this. She wants me to have freedom and like kind of.
Dad's gonna.
It's dad.
Yeah.
Dad's like, well, I'm your dad.
Sure.
You live here, and I'm like, you're right. I do. So I can't say anything.
But your dad's testing you. You know what I'm saying? He's testing you because. Of course your dad's going to say that, but you got to stay, you know, there's a certain level of like, until, you know, again, if you listen to the show, I was using this analogy for a different situation in dating, but if you give someone 10 or what was it? If you give someone 10, if you accept 10, they're not going to give you 20 or something. So it's the same thing where like your dad's not going to give up a certain level of influence and power he has over you until you push back. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying this has to be a fight. This can be a fun relationship between, daughter or father. He might respect you for it. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to have to show him why you are capable of making decisions for yourself, and that he's done a good job of raising you. And now you're going to take what you've learned from him and make your own decisions. And he's not always going to be obsessed with all of them, and that's okay. But you have to show him. It's on you to show him. If you want him to change, he's never going to change the relationship. He doesn't want to.
I'll keep on trying.
You can do it. But you have to care. You have to see it for what it is. You have a good relationship with your parents. They're going to push you. They're going to push your boundaries. Your dad. And that's the advantage your dad has over you. And that's why you say, I'm going to try, with a little bit of a defeatist attitude, because your dad is very comfortable with enforcing his boundaries with you. That's been his whole relationship with you, because they used to just be rules, and he still sees them as rules. And so it's very easy for him to enforce that boundary. And it's very difficult because you saw them as things that you had to do, but you don't have to do them anymore. So it's a little like dipping your toe in the water, but you have to use your common sense and know that you're a 24-year-old adult and you do not need their permission to do certain things. And to be honest, the only weapon he has in his arsenal is a little bit of a huffing and puffing and a little bit of a judgment. That's all he's got. He's not going to kick you out. That's all he's got. It's not much, and you just have to, you gotta get through that threshold.
To be completely honest, I'm so scared that let's say, because I would not ever do this because I would be scared that this would actually happen. But let's say I do revoke the location privileges, or I do spend the night at somebody's house. I would be absolutely petrified that I would be thrown out of the house.
Are you being serious?
I'm being so serious, just because he is so, we're both kind of hot-headed, because we've had these conversations and we've gotten into arguments about it. And I've also talked to my mom about it, and I try to be calm. But he's just so straight arrow, just the same way he has been. And he's a great dad.
I'm sure he is.
But I would be nervous, legitimately nervous.
I would still, as your friend, I would still encourage you to be willing to test that. And if you were to do that, and you were, and your dad does the thing that you would be nervous about, it would be super important for you to just remain calm and say some version of okay, kind of be prepared for it. If your dad goes to the whole exercise of losing his shit for a little bit and threatens to kick you out, it's going to be a temper tantrum, and mom is going to eventually calm him down. But in the moment, you don't react. You pack your bags, be like, okay, well, obviously I'm going to have some time to figure it out, but I'm going to go stay at Becky's house for now, or your boyfriend's house, or whatever. And you just, you just say, okay, that's all you say. And that will be very powerful, and he will not be expecting that. Well, he'll be expecting you is to either fight back or beg for his forgiveness. And you're going to do the thing he would never expect, which is just calmly say, okay, well, I mean, I don't agree with you. I'm sorry you feel this way, but I am going to respect okay, okay. You have the right to do that. But I also have the right as an adult to sleep over at someone's house. I'm 24 years old, and he'll calm down, and mom will, do her thing.
That's good. I like that. I'll listen back to that one.
I mean, again, this is really just about changing your relationship with your parents. I strongly feel it is our jobs as our kids to do that, because I can tell you as a new parent, I won't. I'll do my best, but I'm going to be her dad as long as she lets me be her dad. And when she insists on me, I'll always be her dad, but being more of a friend and a mentor and someone who's there for her when she needs, then I'll have to respect that. But I doubt very much I'm going to give that up if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense. I get it.
All right. Well, but I will say, dating someone 15 years older than you, he will be very excited when you move out with your parents. And the fact that he's pretty chill about, is a green flag, because it would, if he was shady, I think it would bother him more.
Yeah. I haven't dated anyone that has a problem with the fact I live with my parents, which is good.
Well, that's good.
If I did, I wouldn't date them. So.
Well, good to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully this was helpful.
It was. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I need
I
to
would
keep
love
having those
an
conversations.
update, because I think this is like, if you're willing, this is the start of your journey with your parents and changing your relationship, and it is going to come with a couple awkward or difficult conversations. And the key of all of it is your ability to remain calm and be in control and understand, see the forest through the trees, and anticipate your dad's react. If you can anticipate someone's reaction, then you're in control of that situation. It's like in chess or in sports. Like, if you know the play they're going to run, you have the advantage. So anticipate his reaction, know what you're going to do. Don't act surprised when he does the thing you anticipate him to do, and don't emotionally react, because that's what he's expecting. And when you don't do something they're expecting, you gain that power.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, good luck.
I like it.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
bye-bye.
You too.
ShipStation, the world keeps getting smarter. Your e-commerce business should too. Whether you are looking for incredible efficiency or your business has outgrown your old shipping solution, ShipStation helps you take the next step. ShipStation helps you achieve exceptional shipping efficiency with a robust all-in-one order fulfillment system that integrates with over 180 of the most popular e-commerce platform marketplaces and carriers like Shopify, Amazon, Etsy, you name it, so much more. If you are an e-commerce business, chances are shipping costs are the most expensive cost of your business. So why don't you do yourself a favor and help yourself by lowering those costs, and you can get the same type of shipping rates usually afforded to some of the largest companies out there. But with ShipStation, you too can save up to 89% off on shipping. Wow, that's a big number. Whether it's UPS, DHL Express, or USPS rates, chances are without ShipStation, you are missing out on some incredible savings. And then, like I said, it seamlessly integrates with whatever platform you are selling on. So do yourself a favor, integrate with ShipStation, get the analytics you need to get yourself better customer service, better pricing on shipping, deliver a better customer service experience with industry-leading features that help you find the best carrier rates, print labels, and make customer service a breeze. It doesn't matter if you're a company of one or a company of 1 million, ShipStation can meet your needs. Lead your e-commerce business into a smarter future with the shipping software that delivers. Switch to ShipStation today. Go to ShipStation.com and use code Viall Files to sign up for a free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, code VIALLFILES. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online counseling platform that offers therapy services through phone, video, live chat, and online messaging. BetterHelp's goal is to make therapy more accessible and effective for people who need help with their mental health. Let's talk about the accessible part, because that's where I feel like the value really comes in with BetterHelp. They make it so much easier than it usually is to find the right therapist at the price that you can afford. It's more affordable than in-person therapy and more convenient. We always find a million excuses why this is not the right time for therapy, and BetterHelp, quite honestly, takes a lot of those excuses out of the picture. We should be investing in our mental health the same way we invest in our emotional health, our physical health, our diet health, things like that, because if we don't have the right set of mind, then who are we really? Doesn't matter what your problems are. Maybe it's money problems, relationship problems, work problems, general anxiety. BetterHelp is there to help you with that all. And like I said, they make it super easy to find the therapist that fits your needs, which is super important when it comes to therapy. They're working with new therapists every day, thousands of therapists. So if you sign up, you go to BetterHelp.com, you answer a few questions, the type of therapy you're looking for. They will assign you a therapist. You'll have a session. You'll ask yourself how I felt about that session. If you thought maybe I just didn't jive with that person, no problem. You get yourself a new one. Until you land with someone who you really feel can have an impact on your life, you can keep shopping around at no additional cost to you. So stop making excuses about why you're not taking care of your mental health today and check out BetterHelp. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL. How's it going?
Hi, my name's Dana, and I want to know if I should keep dating a guy after I found out he has a restraining order against him.
Okay. Well, offer some more context, because I'm guessing you know that the obvious answer for me and everyone else listening is kind of like, no, run, so why are you considering it? Why, you know what I'm saying? Because this comes down to the fact that you're asking tells us that you realize this is maybe not, like we said, like what you would just maybe advise a friend, your instincts, but you want to look past this, right? You want to look past it. So why convince me that you should, so to speak, or let's walk through it. So, because You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's totally fair. So, and honestly, if I was being asked the same question by my friend, I'd be like, why are you even asking? So I met him like 3 weeks ago, and the first date was great connection. He's really engaging. He's funny. He's smart. You know, he has a good job. Like he has all these things. And like, it was probably the first date I've had in a long time where it felt like a real connection. And then within those 3 weeks, I started kind of feeling like, okay, I can see him around my friends. I can see us doing things together. I can see us like building our lives together in a way that I haven't felt with previous dates. So there's that. And so everything was going really, really well up until he dropped this news on me. He didn't have the restraining order when we first started dating. It happened after those 3 weeks. So
Wait,
he got
what?
served it within those 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So herein lies the bigger issue for me. Because he got served with it.
This is worse, right? Yeah, well, that's worse than 5 years ago.
Yes and yes. No, yes.
Well, how no? Tell me no. Well, because who was it, first of all? And why did this person feel the need to do that?
Right. So it was the last girl he was dating before me. In our state, it's really easy to get a restraining order. So you basically file it online. You do a thing with the judge over the phone, and you can get a restraining order. And it can be just based off of text you receive.
Well, we learned this just this past week, recording on our reality recap episode with Emily Baker, when we were talking about the Devon restraining order. We learned that, kind of like you just said, there's a difference between what is it, a preliminary restraining order or a... So yeah, you can get one real quick. A temporary restraining order. Thank you. So is this a temporary restraining order, or is this, have they gone to court and filed the actual restraining order?
Well, I don't know fully. All he's told me is that it's a restraining order, and that he did get served it by the sheriff's department. And the way that it works here is you can do the hearing over the phone. And then if you want to go to court to fight it, then you can do that. So as of right now, as far as he knows and I know, he has a restraining order, like a full-on one. And then if he wants to get rid of it, he can go to court and fight it then.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's temporary or not.
Okay. Well, you should do your homework. I guess would be my first bit of advice. But you don't seem to agree with me, but I feel like the fact that this is current and ongoing makes it messier and worse of a situation. If this was a few years ago, he's potentially out of the mess, more mature, yada, yada. But what is his explanation, in terms of how this all happened? Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So what he's saying is it was basically based off of just a couple petty texts he sent. He said, and the vibe I get off of him, I couldn't even imagine him saying anything threatening or dangerous, because that's just not, like, funny enough, I've been in worse situations. So I feel like I can kind of recognize when somebody is that way, and he doesn't seem like that. And basically it was the last girl he was dating. Their breakup, or when they ended things, it got kind of messy between both of them. So there was a lot of back and forth texting. And then I guess maybe a couple weeks after they had stopped talking officially, he had sent her some petty texts. And he did offer to show me petty. Yeah.
Yeah. You should know what those texts are.
Like a sarcastic, like, hope you're doing well kind of thing, or hope you're doing well with that other guy kind of stuff. Is kind of how he said it to me.
But you need
to
see him. You do.
You think so?
Because
he offered to have me look at them.
Okay, well, you should have said yes.
I was scared.
Well, that should tell you something. This guy doesn't, like, listen, nothing against him. He doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. You've been dating him for less than a month. You know nothing about this guy. The fact that you have been in some worse situations dating, like, trust your instincts. I'm not going to tell you not to do that, right? And so you probably have, you have more experience in that than I. So I'm not going to tell you to not trust your instincts. That being said, it wouldn't. I don't know. I'm making this up or this stat up because I don't know if it's actually true. But I don't think it would be that shocking to find out that a lot of people who have restraining orders against them make great first impressions.
Yeah.
Every situation is different. We now know of a guy, Devin, who had a restraining order against him. There's some pretty alleged aggressive stuff in that, and this guy won The Bachelorette. You know, so I think some people are better at masking it than others. That being said, listen, it is very easy, it sounds like, to get a restraining order put against you, and breakups can be messy, and pettiness goes both ways, and maybe she was as petty as well. I don't know, but I would want to see those messages. You can't be afraid of the truth in this situation. If you're afraid of the truth, then you aren't in a position to date this guy. You aren't set up for success. You need to, have, if you're going to take a risk like this, and it's a risk, and maybe it's unfair to him. I mean, the most pragmatic thing to do, and I think you know this, would be to tell him to clean up his mess and to follow up with you once he does. That's what you should do.
Right. So that's what I did.
Oh, okay.
I ended up, but I ended up telling him, because we had a big conversation about it, and he told me all this over the phone. So I told him, give me a day, let me think about it, because it's just a lot of information to take in. And I have had a friend who had something like this filed against him, and the girl came out later and admitted she was lying about it all. So it's like, I know that things like that can happen, yes, but it's also a small percentage, I would think. And so I did tell him that when we talked face to face about it, I was like, hey, I think that you should handle this first and get this under control before we really start something, because I don't want this to be in the back of your mind. I also don't want to be a point of contact for it, because he was kind of asking me questions like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, I don't think I should answer that.
Yeah, you shouldn't be giving him advice or anything like that. Another thing you want to consider too is that, regardless of whether it was justified or not by this person who filed it, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and that regardless of what happened, he's not a bad guy and he's not dangerous, but maybe he did say something that was off-putting to her, and she has the right to feel a certain way about it, but it was an honest, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe she's slightly overreacting, but maybe she's not completely overreacting, Maybe it's that. So let's assume that, right? This is a vulnerable situation for him, right? Bringing up herpes, right? I think when it comes to herpes, why it's such a interesting dating conversation and with STDs is that it's something that's not curable, that you have to live with if you contract it, but it's not the dating death sentence that a lot of people feel it is if they were to contract it. It's shockingly more common than people realize, which is also why people should practice more safe sex than they do, but I digress. But my point is, if someone were to be diagnosed with that, it can be a very scary feeling, right? And so you immediately have a fear of being undateable, so he is going to immediately, and you're a very beautiful woman, and I'm sure there's, you have a lot of guys that you can date, but I'm just saying, to this guy, immediately you're that much more of a catch. You're that much more desirable, because he does, like, what I'm saying? Like, he's just like,
Right.
Well, listen, he's like, who cares if I marry her? Whatever, this restraint. I won't. Maybe she's the last person I'll ever have to confess this to.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. And I'm not saying that he's, and this isn't going to be some sort of Machiavellian or malicious thing. I'm just saying he potentially, even if he's a solid guy and this restraining order is overblown, or just, he's not dangerous, it wouldn't blow my mind if 3 or 4 months from now, after he has passed this, that wears off, and then he has to see you for who you really are to him. And you know what I'm saying? And so there is that risk of him seeing you through rose-colored glasses in a way he might not if he wasn't currently dealing with this.
Right. And that's a part of my concern, is because with some of the stuff I've been through in the past, I try to be understanding of people's situations. I try to, because anything can happen to you at any time, right? Like what you're talking about with STDs, something can happen to you, and you have to be upfront about that, and it's going to affect how you do other things in your life. And so I try to be understanding about that. And I think that's why I'm trying to go into this with an open mind, just because I did get such a good vibe from him to begin with, and how he's handled it afterwards too. He's not trying to overly impress me and like brush it under the rug or anything. He's being we've kind of taken a little bit of a step back, so like, I don't feel like he's trying to take advantage of me in that way, but I am worried that he's gonna, I guess, yeah, this is gonna be at the forefront of his mind, and our relationship's gonna be on the back burner. And then, like you're saying, later on, it's gonna be like, oh, well, I don't really like you for you. You were just patient enough to deal with me while I was going through this. Thanks, but I'm out,
Yeah. And it won't be like that. He'll just slow play it. But if that were, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it sounds to me like you're doing the right thing, like I'm assuming he's going to fight this, right? So I'm assuming, because if he wins, I'm assuming it wouldn't be on his record. If that's, I don't know. Anyways.
Exactly. Yeah.
You should see the messages.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that I'm super scared. I think I also was trying to go into it with well, if I'm going to trust him, I should trust
that's
him.
The thing.
I don't need to see them to trust him.
And if I think you should limit your conversations with him, but I think if you do continue to talk to him in any capacity, I think it should be communicated and understood between the two of you that neither of you deserve the benefit of the doubt from each other about trust. Why should you guys trust each other? I'm not saying you should assume the other person is a lying piece of shit, but you should proceed cautiously. You should, as the Russians used to say, trust but verify, so to speak, early in dating, right? Like, and so even if this is just bad luck for him, if he's really a decent guy and if he really didn't do anything wrong, then it won't matter that you don't give him the benefit of the doubt because he will prove to you that he is a decent guy. If you do ask to see these messages, they will turn out to be something that you also agree with him, which is like, this would be, she's overreacting if it's based off of that, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, and he shouldn't be offended by that because if he was in your position, he would absolutely want and should do the same thing, which is to look. Because every once in a while, small percentage too, that like, there are crazy, scary, narcissistic, sociopathic people out there. And we never think we're going to run into them. And when we do, they present as normal, especially very, very early on. And I'm not saying he is, or you should assume he is, but like you guys both should be allowed to verify what you're learning about each other. And you shouldn't just not have to look. And especially when something like this presents itself, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. And is it fair to him? No, but life's not fair. And if I were a good guy, well, I like to think I am, but if I were in his shoes, it wouldn't offend me. I'd want you to see it. I'd want you to know I'm a good guy. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't bother me that you looked or you'd want to see.
Yeah.
I'd be like, why should she trust me? She doesn't know me. And so
so I guess that's a good thing he offered, but I mean, I'm not going to give him like full, I'm not saying that's like the saving grace here, but I do think that's what's been hard for me is because he has been so open about it. He has wanted me to see them, to talk to me about it. And I do know that a lot of people would just try to hide it and lie about it.
You also should ask more questions about the messy breakup.
Yeah.
Because I'll say this. Over the years, I've become friends with men and women, right? And I've become friendly with men that I had heard from maybe their dating past that their ex-girlfriends accused them of maybe being slightly problematic. And it was kind of unclear what the accusations were. And so I kind of chalked it up to immature people, young people just kind of both being messy, right? Because a lot of times when we're in our early 20s and we don't know how to be in love, it can get kind of messy. And since there wasn't any real specific kind of claims or anything, it was just more, but there was a suggestion that they were a little too, that they were toxic, or I don't know. But the people, I was getting to know them and I was like, I don't know, man, they seem all right to me. I don't really get that sense, only to find out as they got into other relationships that they had a side to them. And that side was, you ever see Seinfeld, the Bad Breaker Upper episode? Mm-hmm. All right, well, there's a Seinfeld episode. You should watch it. It's funny. But Elaine's dating this guy where they call him the Bad Breaker Upper. He's a relatively nice guy, but if he gets broken up with, he just throws insults or whatever. And it's like a comedy, but like it's just like some people just have a side when they don't get their way and when they go through a breakup or whatever. And they can be really, there could be a side there that you're, that is like, holy shit, man, like Jesus. And if that's the case, he doesn't see it. You know what I'm saying? And like the people I know, and again, like, it's not like the people I'm talking about, I'm not in a position to say whether they were abusive or anything, but it would seem clear that the kind of cryptic accusations from the past and what I learned about the person, there were more parallel. It made more sense to me, right?
Right.
And there was a side to this person that was a little aggressive and a little toxic, where you thought, I don't know, there's a scary side there, and I don't know, maybe does it go to a darker place? You get what I'm saying? And I just think,
yeah.
And so if nothing else, again, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. You need to ask more questions about the breakup from his point of view. How did it get messy? What was said that he might have regretted? What did you say to her that might have been cruel? Because it probably wasn't just some text messages. Maybe that's why he's so willing to show you the text messages, because maybe the text messages on their own don't look like much, but from her point of view, it's everything leading up to that. Maybe she set a boundary with him that was like a result of some things he said to her in the fight that were pretty like aggressive or off-putting, and she's like, never speak to me again or else. And then he did. And she was like, all right, I'm going to file this fucking restraining order. And maybe that conversation with her would shed a light that he's clearly not going to share with you. I don't know, but it's possible. And like you said,
Right.
Do some people make false claims? Absolutely. But it's definitely a really small percentage, especially relative to the people who file valid claims.
Right. And I think that's what's bothering me, is because I don't have enough data to know. Like, if I had been dating for a year or two even, and at least had some more time with him to really fully understand more about his character, then, I might, and he said, oh yeah, like, within the first month of us dating, actually this had happened, but I got it taken care of. I'd have more data to fall back on. But, with what he has told me, I've even said this to him, that if I was her friend, I probably would have told her to do the same thing. Or I could understand, because they had only known each other for like 2 months, and then it got so messy. So I told him from a female's perspective that, I could see why maybe she went down that road, even if it was just petty texts in your eyes. I could see where she was coming from.
I mean, because that's the thing, right? Because short of her being
Yeah.
completely psychotic and nutso, there was a reason she did this. And even if it was a slight overreaction on her part, there was most likely a reason. And even if she's a total psycho, then there's why were you dating someone who was an absolute nightmare? And then, that might be slightly unfair because it is so new and we all have been duped by people. But my guess is most likely there is a reason. And doesn't mean that he's a bad guy, but he should, if nothing else, be able to talk through and acknowledge a role he played and something to take away from it. I think there's something to learn about him that he probably doesn't want you to know, or maybe is unwilling to learn about himself.
Yeah. And if not that, I think one of my other concerns, because the restraining order itself, like, I think deep down I know is probably enough to just say, okay, let's at least take a break and then handle that and let's talk later. I think the bigger concern for me too is that it was so recent. So that tells me that, because the last text he sent her would have been maybe a couple days before our first date. So that tells me that I don't know if his head, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of what I want to ask you too, is that tells me that he hasn't fully healed from that. And I don't want to be a placeholder, like, while he's still figuring out if he's over her or not.
Yeah. I mean, healed might be a strong word, because he's only, like you said, it's only been 2 months. And if he needs to heal from this, then yikes. I mean, the restraining order, that's I'm sure traumatic for him, and that might fuck with him. So there is that too. Like, I mean, yeah, and it might be unfair, but like, he's going to probably have to deal with this. But how old are you again?
32.
Okay. Well, you're young. Might not feel like that for you. I don't know. 32 is definitely not the time to start like dating potentially dangerous, scary men.
Yeah.
Just because you had a nice little connection in the first couple months. And I'm not saying he is, but I don't think we're at the point where we're like, you know what, fuck it, I really need a guy.
Right.
So,
That's fair.
if nothing else, I think we're on the same page that you really need to pull back here, create some space, let them figure it out. Doesn't mean you can't keep tabs, doesn't mean you have to completely cut him off. But if you're going to have him in your life in any degree, you need to take him up on the offer of learning more about the situation and ask him questions. And even if it feels a little interrogating, if he really wants you to give him a shot, he owes you as much. It might not be fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to deal with our shit, and he needs to deal with this.
Okay.
But there's most likely a reason why she did it. And even if it doesn't mean he's scary, I'm willing to bet there's a good chance that it's not just about the text messages that he sent, and he's selling it as show, and he's willing to. And I would ask more questions about the actual breakup and the entire fight from the moment they broke. Did she break up with him?
No, he ended up breaking up with her, but it was because she was seeing another guy. So at the same time.
So she chose another guy.
Yeah.
So she was probably, because it's 2024, she was dating but not exclusive. They weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. He liked her a little bit more than she liked him. He was ready to be in a relationship. She wasn't. He chose another guy, and he feels a certain way about it.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist.
I mean, the reality is like there's a good chance is that like to me that tells me he's probably again, might be unfair, definitely a possessive quality he might have.
Yeah.
Because let's just play this out. What's the most likely explanation, right? Like we just talked about. He liked her, she wanted to date. Again, maybe she's a bad communicator. Maybe his point of view is that like she told me I was the only one, or maybe I'm guessing she probably just kept it vague and he made assumptions about where they were. And then when he found out what the reality was, he was offended because he made assumptions that were inaccurate and he blamed her for his assumptions. We do that a lot. When we make assumptions and we feel like asses, we want to blame someone who we tell ourselves made it okay to assume. And so it wouldn't shock me if that was where it all started. And think about from her point of view, it's like I had the right to date multiple people. I'm dating multiple people, and here this guy is kind of talking to me like he has some type of ownership over me, or that I owed him in some type. And he is really pushing back in an aggressive way for a guy who was never my boyfriend.
Right.
And he probably gave a little bit of that energy.
Right.
And then I'm guessing that last text message he's so willing to show you, which is probably nothing, sent her over the edge. And it wouldn't shock me if she asked him to not ever reach out to her, and then he did.
Right. And that's kind of what I thought about saying them too, is I don't know, like, but you guys could have also had phone conversations, in-person conversations that are the ones that actually made her feel that way. And then this, like you said, is the final tipping point. So I don't know. I think with talking with you, it's helped reaffirm a lot of what my gut was telling me. But my brain was trying to say, okay, well, you had a really good connection. You're trying to be patient. You're trying to be understanding. And I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think it is good to hear that I don't necessarily owe him that.
Not even necessarily. You absolutely do not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your instinct will want to, because, as a human being, we want to be courteous with people we like. We want to show our willingness to be graceful and considerate and loving and endearing. And so your instinct will be to do that. And you have to fight that instinct because this isn't a normal situation. And the more I talk it through with you, the more I would proceed with caution. If you are going to consider it, if you're not capable of asking him direct questions that feel a little bit uncomfortable and a little violating of his privacy, then you're not ready. You're not in a position to date this guy. Would be my one bit of tough love for you.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think that has absolutely been a part of it, is I haven't wanted to be invasive, because I already felt like he was dealing with a lot. So I didn't want to push that further or reopen that wound.
And he has the right to not want to deal with that, because again, you guys have only been dating for 3 weeks. And it would be more than right to say, hey, listen, I really like you, but I have to deal with this shit. And I don't want this to get messy with you. So like, can I deal with this shit? And like, I'm at the right time, I'll be ready to answer all your questions. If you're ready to give me another shot, I'll totally understand if you don't want to, but like, I just got to deal with it. And he would have the right to say that. And that'd be a normal response. Right. You have to take care of yourself and protect yourself in this situation. You don't know him at all, and you don't owe him anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also don't even know what answers I would think are acceptable. You know what I mean? Like if I am asking him about his breakup and all that, I mean, I think we naturally are going to go towards, well, they did this and this is how I feel about how they treated me in the relationship.
Sure,
and I don't know if there's any.
Well, sure. And his explanation will be from his point of view, from his feelings and things like that. And your instinct will be to empathize with him. You need to ask him these direct questions from the PO as her friend.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's the mindset you should have. You're her girl, and she asked you to talk to him, and because she's got her blind spots on, so she asked as a friend to her to talk to him to get a read on if he's for real or not. And that's the mindset you need to have, and those are the instincts you need to activate.
That's a good point. Yeah, I will try to do that. I think I need to go at it from a different perspective, or just pull back a lot more, if not completely, and just follow my instincts.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us posted what you decide to do and how it plays out.
I will. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Good luck.
Yep. Thanks.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It is incredibly hard to find the right hair care products for your hair. Everyone's hair is different, and I have sworn by Way for a really long time. Now I've used their products, all of their products for a really long time. Everything they make is really, really great. Way restores hair health from the outside, from within, through effective hair care products and proven nutritional supplements developed by an MD. Everyone's got a type, and Way is yours. Their shampoo and conditioner are made to deliver what's just right for your hair type. With Way, you'll get the hydration that won't weigh you down, plus extra benefits with your specific strands need. Think volume and bounce, shine and protection against frizz. Upgrade your shower routine with a wash day duo that's designed for fine, medium, and thick strands to get your hair looking and smelling amazing. They have so many amazing products. I love their conditioning hair mask. They have a great detox shampoo, which is really good if you haven't washed your hair in a while, or if you've been using a lot of products. It really just gets in there and leaves your hair feeling refreshed and super clean. They also have a really great hair oil that just gives you that shine that your hair needs.
And when she says oil, she means oil. I love their hair oil. As someone who has frizzy hair, it helps with that for me. Wash your way to healthier hair and get a hair routine that's made just for you by Way. Go to theway.com. That's THEOUAI.com and use promo code Viall Files for 15% off any product. Again, that's theway.com. THEOUAI.com. Promo code Viall Files. This is a footwear company that makes waterproof, breathable shoes. And when I say waterproof, I mean completely 100% waterproof. We've talked about some of the other great shoes that Vessi has. Well, they have a new and exciting sneaker to present. It's the new Tidal sneaker. This is a once again, fully waterproof, lightweight, and breathable. You ask yourself, how can it be both waterproof and breathable? I don't know. I didn't design the shoes, but it's true. The best part is they look great on your feet, because what did they used to say? Like, fashion is pain. Well, not with Vessi. You could be both comfortable and fashionable with Vessi. So if you haven't checked out Vessi's great lineup of shoes and their Westerly Coach jacket, stop missing out and check out Vessi.com today. We love Vessi, and we love their 100% waterproof shoes. So anyways, yeah, Vessi's where it's at. So I don't care if you are commuting from work or you're a big outdoorsy person, Vessi has something for you. So step into autumn with confidence in the Vessi Tidal sneaker. Designed for the season's unpredictable weather. Find your perfect fit at Vessi.com/VIALL to get an automatic 15% off your first order at checkout. That's Vessi.com/VIALL. How's it going?
Hi.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Elle.
Hi, Elle. How old are you?
I am 52.
And how can we help?
I'm trying to get back into the dating scene, and I have a disability that I have been dealing with. And after being married for a while, it's kind of an interesting way to get back in when you have a new body.
Okay.
So,
what is your disability?
So I went through sepsis
Okay.
in 2007, which is like a blood poisoning
Sure.
for those that don't know. And it takes over your system. And so I lost part of both legs and part of both hands because of that. And so
You lost both hands and both feet?
Yeah, both kind of mid-calf on both sides.
Okay.
And then part of both of my hands, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you experienced that. That must have been very difficult.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it sucked.
And that happened when you were married?
Yeah, I was married, very active, still active, but life was just, fine.
How did it affect your marriage?
Yeah, so we were only married for 6 months also when this happened.
Okay.
So, we had to learn a lot really quick about what support really means. and how to communicate. What I had to learn, though, and this is, something which, is part of this whole discussion, I believe, is how to be vulnerable and ask for help.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you don't want to be seen as either weak or that now, your partner's become a caretaker versus a partner. There's a whole host of things.
Totally.
But because I knew him and it was a familiar situation, it was an easier transition. But yeah, I mean, he was actually really, really supportive and really good as far as that goes. We, I think, split for a lot of different reasons. But one thing I have learned about myself through this is the vulnerability of this, probably could have impacted my relationship because, insecurities go through the roof. But, that's just one little tiny piece. But yeah, so.
Question, and I appreciate your willingness to answer if you are, but there seems to be a lot of advancements when it comes to technology, when it comes to people who have lost limbs.
Absolutely.
Have you been able to take advantage of that and kind of like, what are you working with, I guess is my question.
What am I working with? So I actually have really good prosthetics. I have several sets actually. I can stay really active. So the legs aren't so much the issue. It's my hands because I have prosthetics. They are really pretty. I can paint my nails. I can wear, jewelry, that kind of thing. So they look fine. They're just not very functional. The ones that are functional would mean I would have to lose more of what I have.
Would they have to cut off some of your hand to get the more?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, that's like a whole nother podcast.
Are you even considering that? Is that something that's in the back of your mind, or is it just like a crazy option that you're like, it exists, but it's never been something you've really looked into?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was actually up for a hand transplant at one point.
Okay.
So that was a big discussion and everything. I turned it down for a lot of reasons, but because it was still fairly new and everything.
Sure.
Also, it is so weird. As someone who has their hands, you would think, if you have the option to get something or to do something else, why wouldn't you?
I don't know. I do not. I don't presume to know what it's like.
You learn to deal without it.
Yeah.
And so they can almost be like a hindrance.
For sure.
To me.
Yeah.
In some ways.
That makes sense. Anyway, let's get into the dating of it all.
Yeah.
So what are your biggest hangups? Like, what can I help you with?
So biggest hangups are, a few things are, the way now most of the time to date, as we all know, is through these dating apps. And so presenting myself I have tried numerous things. Okay. So I have tried photos where I show my disability and see what kind of, hits I get off of that. I've tried photos without showing it and then just like showing up, which I don't think is the best way to go. However, usually if I get someone in person, it's way better than trying to explain it on paper because I don't look like what it sounds like.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I've tried that and then I explain why I didn't, tell them, and we've had that conversation. So what ends up happening is I have a great rapport. We'll have a date and it may be a great date, but I can't get to that third, fourth date because I'm sure this is, it's a fear or it's something that comes up. We don't discuss it. I mean, they'll maybe have a question or two, but I think it just, So my question really to you is from a guy's point of view, because guys are so much more physical or appearance looking and all of that is, how do I show up and present myself without misleading?
Well, I think there's a couple things you want to consider. Well, I'm not going to sit there and pretend that your disability doesn't have an impact on your dating life. All right. Like, at the same time, if you listen to this show at all, there's a lot of people out there who have all their limbs and have a hard time getting to a third or fourth date. So there is that. And it wouldn't surprise me if it makes sense that you always assume it's your disability, but it might not be, right? So I think one, as I'm sure you have many times before this, you've had to accept the cards you've been dealt, and kind of deal with it, right? And so I don't think it does you any good to assume that it's always that, right? I think if you can't get to a third or fourth date, you're better off just assuming that this wasn't my person. And also you have to fight against the desire just to get to a third date, because then you stop learning about whether you even like these people. You're so worried about them accepting you that you're not spending any time getting to know these people. You're just hoping that they accept you, and then that makes you vulnerable long term.
Right. Exactly. So, which gets to the authenticity of it all, because you don't want to be in that cycle of getting them just to like me, and then I don't even understand what I want. And it's like sometimes I just want to have the choice to judge them before they judge me.
You can do that. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's a mindset, right? And I honestly would, like, before you even said that, what I was going to say is you got to figure out how to go on these dates with a sense of, confidence and pickiness and kind of like, I don't know, I'm going to like this guy. Right now you're going into, God, how do I tell them? It's all about your disability. To answer your immediate question, I don't know. I don't know the best way. I don't know if there is a best way. I don't think there is any good way, right? Because we know that if you on the dating apps, if you're showing pictures, you're just, I don't know. Let's just talk in reality rather than what's the best way. If you're showing photos of your disability on dating apps, you're going to get less matches. But quite honestly, less matches on a dating app might be a good thing, because I think a big problem with dating apps, it's the assumption of abundance. It's, and things like that. We get overwhelmed with our choices. I don't think this is a filter that you want, but it is a filter that you have in terms of judging men who might not just be interested in getting to know someone with a disability. Now, that being said, the reality is we know that can also be discouraging, right? It's one thing to accept that, like, regardless if we have a disability or not, we are not everyone's cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a million reasons why someone might not want to date us. And rejection's never easy and never fun. It's one thing to acknowledge that we have to accept rejection. It's another thing to, like, not let it get to us,
Right. So I just want to say this too, in most every aspect of my life, I don't lead with my disability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't talk about it that much. You know what I mean? Like that's not how I see myself, but it's so different now that it's made me focus on it when it comes to this particular part of my life.
What age of men are you dating?
Probably 40s to mid 50s.
Okay. So you're getting young.
Well, I mean,
Hey, good for you. Pop off, queen.
There's a lot of positives there,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I have a very young spirit, so I don't see myself that way.
Are you looking for a lifelong companionship, or are you looking to get laid?
Yes.
Which one?
I am looking I am looking for companionship.
Okay.
Yeah. Which,
I mean, listen, I guess what I was going to say is, like, you're still young, right? I guess as we get older, because everyone always would, when I was 30 and single, everyone's just like, everything's about looks, Nick, as if I was not supposed to give a shit. But, like, yeah, listen, eventually as we get older, companionship and who we want to spend our time with and enjoying the people we do spend our time with becomes a lot more important than, like, just physical appearance, but we still want to be attracted to the people we date.
Right.
How long you been dating for? Like, how recent is this new kind of journey for you?
Yeah. So, it's been about 5 years.
Oh, okay. So you've been dating for a while.
Yeah.
Have you? I mean, in 5 years, what has worked better for you?
What is honestly I feel misleading. So it's not my ideal, but what has really worked is just to show up.
Yeah, I think I think that's fine.
Not to talk about it beforehand, and not to show pictures or anything, just to show up and just explain.
And for the men,
what's going on.
And for the men that you did that, did they act misled? Did you ever get a second date?
Yes.
Okay, you got second.
They did not seem misled.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like before this happened and prior to being married, that, like, the dating was a lot easier, and I had a whole, like, the algorithm worked for me, like what I was interested in, what I liked, it all came back and forth and it was working. Now I feel like I've got this really screwed up algorithm of, like, what I'm interested in and what I like is not coming back. And I don't know if it's the way I'm showing up. I don't know if it's my disability. I don't know what. And then the guys that are interested, I'm not interested at all.
Well, welcome to dating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's it.
That is my point, though. So, like, here you are. You omitted that a bit of information that, like, there are people that you could date and feel confident in, and that you feel like want to date you, but you're not interested in. And that's something everyone experiences regardless of their disability. So that is something, the fact that you kind of left that out early on tells me that you are overweighting your disability as it relates to the difficulties that you're experiencing in dating.
Maybe. But from a guy's perspective, because you're right, I'm well aware, I'm not bothered by it at all. It's just life. When we see someone with a disability or a challenge that, that we're not used to, we can take a pause and think, differently. But like, would you rather see photos up front, or would you rather know up front? Would you rather be surprised?
I'm a judgy person.
Yeah. I mean, most guys are. And so that's, or it isn't guys, people in general. Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure this out. So
I mean, listen, yeah. You've been doing this for 5 years. I think you should continue to do what you think works best for you. I don't think you're committing any type of crime at all. By slightly misleading these guys. You're doing it for a valid reason. It makes sense why you're doing it. You have a little bit of data to do that. And again, it's not that misleading. We are all, on some degree, misleading people on dating apps with the pictures we post and the things we say. We don't list the fact that, like, to be honest, I'm a little obnoxious. I got a slightly bad temper. I'm pretty forgetful. People aren't doing that on dating apps. So I think you're okay in the morality department by not, showing your hands and feet or wearing your prosthetics or that appear to be your own. I think you're fine.
Right.
I think you're fine. And then I would challenge you to get out of your head, because the more I talk to you, the more you just sound like everyone else dating, which is we meet someone we like, and then we start focusing on the things we're insecure about ourselves and the things we're worried that people won't accept us. And again, that's something everyone deals with, and regardless of their disability, regardless if they have a disability. It might be their personality. Right. It might just be their face, they wish they had a better one. For men, it might be their receding hairline. For others, it might be an STD they have to disclose. I don't know, or just, it could be a million things, right? So you are among friends. You're not as alone as you might feel in the dating department. And so when you just have to remember that, and then you have to, like everyone else, figure out how you can be more yourself when you're on a date with someone you're excited about. And the way to do that is to just, be present with yourself, go into it, acknowledge your excitement, and then be the self-aware person that you are and say, despite my excitement, I still have to get to know this person. They can still be an asshole. I can still learn to not like them. I have to get to know this person. It's not my concern. I should stop worrying about date 3. I just want to focus on getting to know this person. And you can also play a little bit of gamesmanship. You can hide your excitement. You can stop, you can not ask for the second date on the first date because you're so worried, you can stop trying to close the deal. You can be a little cagey. You can be a little mysterious. You can play the game, and that just takes.
I might do that too much, actually, because I'm assuming sometimes that they don't want one. So I play that game real well.
So, well, there you go. So again, you're old enough. You've been around the block. You're self-aware. You know yourself better than you did when you were 19. So learn, just learn. But I think the biggest takeaway is keep doing what you're doing. I'm not in a position to give you advice on what you should be doing. You have 5 years of experience of doing something. Do what works. I'm just giving you the green light that we all mislead people a little bit when it comes to dating apps. So I think you're fine in the morality department. And then going forward, stop making your disability as big of a deal as you seem to be, because it also seems like the more I talk to you, a lot of your issues are common regardless of your disability. That's not to deny that obviously I'm sure it has and will impact. And some men just aren't going to be into it.
Sure.
So.
Well, I also want to thank your discussion with Lewis Howell you guys had that big discussion on vulnerability and stuff. That was amazing. So that was really eye-opening there as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, it could be scary to be vulnerable, but the more we are, the more we realize people will accept us. And the more you are, the more people will feel safe to share theirs. But disability or not, everyone's got something. Everyone's got something they're afraid people won't accept about them. And often, they're right. You're right that some people won't accept you for your disability, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has this insecurity that is valid, that some people will judge them for it. It's why it's an insecurity. There are a lot of men out there who are a certain height or who don't have enough hair that they know that I lost my hair. There goes 20% of my day. I don't know.
That's so true. Sometimes though, in the disability area, some people don't feel like they can be very vulnerable with the disability because then that's a turnoff too if it's too soon in the relationship. I don't know. I mean,
sure. But just like anything else, like you're dating, like it's early on, you've been dating for a month or two, you're early dating boyfriend and girlfriend, and you're mutually excited. There's a lot of times where people in relationships be like, I can't believe I got someone like you. You're like, I feel like you're too hot for me, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like you say that enough, the other person's kind of like, am I? Like we either want to date our equals or we all want to feel lucky to be having landed this person.
That's true.
But that person you want to feel lucky about also wants to feel lucky about you. So be careful to not diminish your value in a relationship because that person's going to be like, well, yeah, I don't know, you're kind of a loser. Maybe we shouldn't date. But yeah, we can project. Sometimes projecting too much of our insecurities in our relationships will make us less attractive to the people who otherwise really like us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it can be draining sometimes. So there is a balance between sharing your insecurities and projecting some confidence. And like, again, it's striking that balance. Everyone's different. You'll get more comfortable. That comes through conversation and communication. But yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the call.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, and congrats on the Bloomberg.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Article.
Nice little write-up. Very
cool.
Me and Chapel Ronan.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. We got Joey and Kelsey. We got Charles on Thursday on Reality Recap. It's going to be fun. Send in those questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.